All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Feels like it's been a while, but it's only been a week. Today we have another one of my really good friends, Chad Currie. Kind of like most of the people that have been on here so far, we met in a coaching group 7 years ago, and been friends ever since. Chad owns CLC Landscaping down in San Marcos, Texas. We were just down there a year ago, touring his facility, checking out his operation. Had a great time. Super awesome place, and then we went tubing down the river, so we had a really good time down there.
Got to show you Bucky's too. So
you did. I got to take a picture with the Bucky himself. But
I don't know which one was taller, but we won't go there.
Well, it definitely was not me. But I wasn't the shortest one on the trip either. But
that's true.
But welcome to the show, Chad. Thanks for taking your time being here. Appreciate it. And just it's been a while, so we get to finally get caught up. And we talked the other day for a quick moment, just trying to make the stars align here and make this work. It's been a little bit of a process, but we made it anyway. We're both busy guys, so
hey, that's what matters, man. We're here now. Right. I really appreciate you having me on, man. It's always fun, and I've only done a few of these, so I'm getting better and more comfortable behind the camera. So but appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And again, let's give you a quick little intro. Just say kind of how you got in the industry. When you started the company, how you started, things like that. Just tell us your background real quick, and then we'll get rolling.
Cool. Yeah, without going into the long story, I mean, simply put, is I started like many of us, mowing lawns. I was always the kid that had the money and no time, because I was always mowing everybody's lawns back in middle school all the way up to high school. And I always like to joke, say I spent about $80,000 a year, or $80,000 not a year. It spent $80,000 touring Texas State, so didn't finish my degree. Had a lot of fun. I realized that school is not for me. I just didn't know when to quit, so I just kept spending more money. But decided to make this into a career, and here we are. We've been going really, legitimately since we incorporated in 2015, I think it was, or 2017 actually. 2017 is when we incorporated. We've been doing it under DBA since 2015, and this year we're hoping to push a little over $2 million. We have around, I want to say, on a good day, about 24 employees currently. And we're pretty happy with that. So, but we're growing, and we're really focusing on getting the right team members and hiring and firing on culture. And that's been a huge help for us. We, in terms of our makeup, we are primarily, I'd say about 75% of our revenue is design build work, residential only. And then the other 25% ish is maintenance, which is essentially just your regular mowing, fertilization, weed control. We want to, obviously, I know, Jonas, you're big into pests and everything else. And so our goals down the road, we want to get into pests and really be a full service offering. But right now we really want to get a 50-50 mix of our split, so we, you have a good income of recurring revenue, and then a, consistent for new design build. So it's been fun. So
that's awesome.
Learn a lot from people like you. So
yeah, for sure. And like I said, when we get together and you have 25, 30 brains all masterminding, we come up with some crazy stuff, and we'll get to learn from each other, which is a great opportunity for everyone involved. Chad, who were you in high school? I always ask this question. I just like to know what people's background and what drives them.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't the nerd. I may have came off as a nerd to a lot of people, but I was not the smartest one. I was a shithead. I mean, to be, I was not giving myself too much trouble. I always wanted to be a part of the cool guys and those groups and stuff. But I was also, just me as a person, I've never been the type to kind of seclude other people. So it's kind of I could talk to anybody, knew everybody, so it was kind of who I was in high school. And then I started having parties and, doing those fun things. And I got shut down real fast by my parents, but
for sure.
So
did you
pretty easy to be
competitive?
Popular when you're throwing parties.
Were you competitive?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did you do sports or anything like that?
So I played varsity golf all 4 years of high school. I played a little bit of hockey. I know ice hockey in Texas is kind of far and few between. So, but I did a little bit of that. Realized obviously I wasn't going anywhere with it. I was definitely not the best, not the worst, but golf was pretty good. I'm super competitive. So I think that's kind of, and I've always liked that. So not even just who I was in high school, but overall, I'm a builder. I think a lot of us are. I've always physically build things, or whether it be, a fort or a business, or, I was the kid that I remember, this is kind of crazy about reminiscing, but I remember when the trade centers fell, right? I was like probably, I don't know, I guess I was 10, something 9. Anyways, I've always had a really artistic mind, creative, and I would used to design like houses, right? I'd like to draw blueprints, go figure. It's like, it sounds like how cool can it be? But I remember designing every floor of the World Trade Center up to about 50, and I realized they were all the same. And I was like, okay, my whole goal, like I had a little lemonade stand that I was going to wash cars, sell lemonade, and then send the money to like wherever it needed to go for that. That was just something that it's kind of weird, it kind of started to see how kind of, when I look back, it's kind of things like that is what molded me to this point now. And so I was always trying to do something. I was always the hustler, wanted to go out and make money, so I think kind of the whole background, right? And I think that's the biggest thing, came from a decent family with, decent financial ups and downs, obviously. And it's been good because it's kind of taught me a lot about the good of, money in business and then the bad. You see both sides of it, and that's probably why I think, my dad a while ago always said, he's like, I knew you wouldn't be working for somebody. Just not my personality. So
yeah,
wasn't too hard.
Did you have any jobs before you went on business on your own, or not really?
Yeah, I've had a few. So actually, it's funny because you do done door-to-door sales. So I remember I did it
Cutco
in high school, on the side. Man, we were selling these little pizza booklets. And it was, dude, it's like first page, essentially it's free pizza. Last page, it, pays for the book, right?
Yeah.
And I remember learning how to with people without even I'd go up there and I'd see like a UT sign. I'm like, man, I've been Longhorns, do whatever. We start relationship, and it really taught me a ton about building a relationship with people and breaking down that trust wall, essentially, or that what I call the contractor wall. It's like people don't want to. They think, oh, contractor, he's out to get me. But yeah, it was interesting. And I sold. I had this is so minute, but like in the little group, there's like 6 people that work for this guy that did this. I had set the record of both books sold, well, $20 books, and in like 1 hour, I think I sold like 31. I think the most that anybody sold in a day was like 26. Yeah. And so it's a 4-hour day, but it taught me a lot, and there's a lot of no's. It really learned, it helped me learn what, the assholes out there and, sure. The people that are tough to deal with too.
Yeah,
so.
I always tell my guys, no means next opportunity. That's what it stands for.
Yeah,
Just gonna go to the next one.
I like
that.
Go
to the next one. That's how you learn, through adversity.
Absolutely.
What's your, I'm going to guess here, but what is your Colby score? Are you high implementer?
5.4, 7.4.
Okay, so you're low implementer.
Not super.
Yeah.
I think I have like a lot of that. But I'm the type that I'll get it to about 90%, but I'm not the executor. I need somebody else to just take, because I'm the idea guy, dude. I can go off for days on ideas. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very.
And throughout, you mentioned your dad a little bit. Did you have more? I'm sure you had mentors along the way, but can you remember some early mentors that really shaped who you are today?
Obviously I will say my dad, I would consider him like one of my best friends now. He works for me. I'm a production manager now.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool. We worked together for 7 years. A couple of people I'd say on the way. There's, the typical, not a direct somebody who really was like a one-on-one kind of thing. But I would say that the 2 people stick out. One was a social studies teacher back in, high school. He's just one of those guys, one of those teachers that was there to help. And he really, and he actually was the one who reached out since a thing that I started a lawn business and doing well. And, so kind of cool to see somebody reach out after the fact. But the other one was, I actually told this to my designer this morning. I was like, people want to feel important, right? And the way I learned that, I used to do a little bag drop for country clubs, they pull in 6 o'clock in the morning, they drop the bag off, you give them a coffee, whatever, you can put it on their golf cart and get ready to go play golf. And bartender there, his name was Tommy. He was always a super cool guy, but he was the exact guy you'd expect for a men's locker room bartender, right? And so he was like, man, Chad, he's like, you want to make some money? I told somebody else, I was like, I thought he was going to have me start selling drugs or something, He's like, let's make some real money. He's like, well, and obviously I'm all ears. And he says, man, remember their name, remember their drink. Come tell me, we'll go from there. And I went from making $20 tips to $100 tips. And it was crazy. He said, everybody wants to feel special. Everybody wants to feel important. And I think that comes back to a lot of the founding things that we focus on in our businesses, the experience, what it means to have, obviously the process and stuff, but I think that's where we set ourselves apart is people we work with people we want to work with. People work with us because they want to work with us. They like who we are. I mean, I've had a lot of times where I know you could probably attest to many other people's industries. Everybody wants to deal with the owner, right? And I'd go out and sell a job, and they would say, everything would go great, and then they'd almost get their feelings hurt because they didn't hear from me again.
Yeah.
And and my office manager Natalie, she was like, she's like, I don't know what it is, but they love you, and I'm like. It's like, why? What am I doing so special? And I think it's just because of that personal touch, right? It's that you make them feel important and then you're gone. And so it was little things like that, right? It's interesting how that goes and what that means to some people, especially clients, and when you're trying to, win big jobs, small jobs, whatever it may be. So,
yeah, but when you show up to their house, like you probably bring a lot of confidence with you. You know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. Like you see the vision, you believe in the company more than anyone, and that just. People just they feel.
It's like you talk like an owner.
You feel the energy, So it is a lot different. And taking yourself out of that role, and then as the business grows, you're not the face of the company anymore. That tends to go away. I remember back in time, which you probably do too. Like I remember like all my customers' names, and then I got to the point like like a few years later, I'm like I've never even heard of that person. Now I don't even try. Like there's just so many. But I wrote that down.
I agree.
Like I need one of those buttons that you hit when you drop bombs. Like it makes the bomb noise. But I don't have a button, so adults can give me a button.
Yeah, you have to get a button.
But sure. I love it. I love that quote that you said, remember their name and remember their dream. That's fire. I love that.
Yep.
Let's kind of switch gears a little bit because I don't want to run out of time and we have some really good topics to talk about, right?
Absolutely.
The first thing that I wrote down from earlier was the all electric equipment. Kind of walk us through that transition from gas to electric and what that's been like for you, what kind of equipment you use, things like that.
Yeah. So, like I was telling you earlier, man, we were talking to other guys, kind of the same thing. It was interesting. It was cool to talk about because, you kind of get in the swing of things. And we've been using electric equipment now for a couple of years, going on, I think 2.5 years. It's funny. People ask like, why'd you do it? And it's like, well, you're trying to go green. It's because you're close to Austin, Texas, this, that, and the other. And I tell people that it's not really, that had really nothing to do with it. A lot of it was the fact that I would come back into the office and I'd see 6 or 7 lawnmowers sitting there just waiting to be repaired all the time. And I don't know what other people feel about lawnmowers, but I can tell you the Toro Turfmaster was the biggest piece of shit that we had on our. It's just
they're not our sponsor, so we're good.
Good, yeah. Hopefully, if anything, just bleep it out. But it was just like belts, pulleys, carburetors. It's everything you can think about on a motor, right? And there's I don't know how many hundreds of parts that make up a motor. And I started to think, and I have to go back again because I know I mentioned my dad, and I have to give him a little credit here because when he started with me, I guess 7 years ago or so, he came on and he knew I needed some help, and he kind of retired from what he was doing and said, well, just go do this, and here we are. But he's real big in like the efficiency mindset, and he had actually worked on crews, and he remembers like trying to start a weed eater and realizing it took like 10 pulls, or it's frustrating as heck, but it's also like that's time, like and if we did the math, he says, okay, he's like, how much does a carburetor cost? And I was like, I don't know, $30-$40, and he's like, if it takes me 3 minutes 20 times a day to turn this stupid weed eater on, it should start essentially 1 or 2 pulls. That's an hour's worth of time. And if you do the math, I mean, that's $80 to $100 an hour we're losing. And then you multiply it over across multiple people, multiple trucks, crews. And that was kind of one of the most memorable light bulbs that I had, and realized like how important that little number means and what little things can make a big difference. And so with all that being said, we realized that we could afford to literally replace the carburetor every day. Not that we did that, but so fast forward a few years, and I've always kept an eye on the green, the green, I say green industry, but well, we are the electric industry for the green industry. But, and I always question, like, are they there? Are they there? I guess my personality is always like to be ahead of the curve. I like to do, one of our core values is we do things differently. And it's as simple as that, right? Everything from we answer the phone, which we've all talked about and we've all learned, the good old JP. But even like equipment, right? I get sick and tired of having issues, and that can be so frustrating for people. So in 2020, I guess that was the beginning-ish of COVID, right? It was kind of around that March time. Yeah, I dropped about, it was like 30 grand on electric, and I'm kind of one of those. If I do something, I'm kind of all in. Sometimes that bites me in the butt, but I'm here now, so hopefully something's working for now, anyways. But we got now we have I think 75 or 65 batteries, so they're 5 amp batteries. We've got three mowing vans. Hopefully, we'll be at a fourth or a fifth. Our goal is to have 6 or 7 mowing crews next year, 2-man operations. 21 is push mowers. Greenworks Commercial is the company we've decided to go with. And so every van has, and I'm not going to get too much on the technicals of the mowers and stuff, but every van has 2 mowers, 2 blowers, 2 weed eaters, 1 blade edger. And we send them out with 25 batteries. We do a milk crate, like milk carton. And so, yeah, and it's, so those, that was a little bit of a struggle because you got to learn that one, if they run out or you find that they aren't running them all the way empty. And so then they take them and they're like, oh, we're about out. And they're like, how are you out? Like halfway through the day? Like we used to be able to get to a full day with 20, you know what I mean? So it was that, but we have a charger for every single battery. So at the end of the day, they bring them into the office and we've got, when I did that remodel, we did a wall that's got 9, I don't know, how familiar you are with electric, but it's 9 3-gang, I think is what it is, but 6 plugs essentially. And those 6 plugs are on 1 breaker and we've got 9 of those. So we got 9 breakers all separate because of the amount of electricity and power and stuff. But we have, I don't know, about 30 or 40 chargers. We have the ability with that wall to charge 128 batteries simultaneously. So it's
wild.
It's kind of, it looks like a mess right now. I would show it to you, but I've been talking with Greenworks telling them they need to make the battery mounts like mountable or battery chargers mountable because right now they're sitting on this wire shelf and it get moved around. It just, I'm kind of OCD, so it bothers me. So I try to avoid that area, but it works, right? So coming back on the reason why we switched was, okay, efficiency. Electric, it either works or it doesn't. I mean, you push the button, it starts or it doesn't. And so we got rid of the belts, the pulleys, the gears, the carburetors, the crap. Plus, in our market, they're quiet. They're clean. You don't smell like fuel. They actually have a lot more torque. So most people are surprised when they use them. Especially we've got quickie saws. Right? Yeah, exactly. 100%. That's how I explain it to a lot of people. And even like the chainsaws and quickie saws. So a quickie saw, for those who don't know, a concrete saw. We use it in the design build side. They got those battery, they got the little water hookup and everything. And my guy is like, I remember my brother, who's one of my lead crew leaders for design build. He's been there for about 5 years now and he's doing really well. But he called me and he said he used, he's one of the chainsaws, first time he used it. He called me, he's like, dude, this chainsaw is so badass, but it sounded like he was being a smart ass. So I was like, okay. Like, really? And he was like, no, I'm serious. Like, this thing is awesome. It's like everybody here was like, this is amazing. Like, don't ever buy gas. It was kind of cool. Like, even the clients will ask, like, man, that thing's quiet. And they realize they're like, dude, that's so cool. And there's not a single other company in our area that's running all electric. That's another plus, right? And so what was cool about that though is the transition into COVID. We've just kind of found that, again, most of these, they say they're quieter, they have less decibel rating than a vacuum cleaner. And so people are now working from home, they're on Zoom calls, whatever, and they're getting distracted. Everybody knows like what it sounds like to have a blower right outside your window. That doesn't happen. We've had people that'll call that, like, you didn't in my yard, I didn't hear you. Like, your camera. Sure enough, oh my God, we couldn't tell. So there's some added benefits there, but I did the math and really the investment on our end is about $7,500, including batteries per van and equipment. The battery is the most expensive part. It ends up being, it's about the same. I take that back. It was about $8,000 in equipment and batteries. And it's about the same if we were running a, push mower, gas, whatever, all the weed eaters and stuff. And maybe it's a bit cheaper on that. But what I found was that time savings that I was talking about earlier is surprisingly, on my calculations, I'm not the best with math, but I like these kind of efficiency numbers are my favorite. But I figured that with the time savings that I have and just simplicity of it it'll pay for itself in about 18 months. And all of our items come with a 2-year commercial replacement warranty. And so I know that I could, everything. And I could literally take them and throw them away. Essentially, we don't tell our guys that, but in 2 years, like I want to run good new stuff so that the guys are not constantly out there trying to band-aid something. Same with our trucks, right? The trucks, I think oldest one is like a 2018. We do it intentionally. It took us a lot to get there, but that for electric stuff, man, that's been the biggest biggest piece. And the guys at first, they called the mowers, they started calling them Fisher Price mowers because they are super light. And there were some issues at first. I'll give them that. There were some issues with the drivetrain stuff, but again, the warranty was just is take it in, replace it. And I tell anybody that if you are going to switch to electric, just a lot of them are good, like Ego Pro, Greenworks Commercial, whatever. They're all good. I personally like Greenworks Commercial, but the biggest thing is the vendors. And I know most people, or not vendors, but your dealers. I know most people can agree, regardless of what equipment you're using, gas or electric. But that's been it was a big issue for us. We were traveling an hour and a half to get these and repair stuff. It was a pain. But we've got one now that's like 10 minutes from our office. Now they're bringing us stuff. So I think we're supposed to demo like a 30-inch here pretty soon. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it works for us. But again, to that point, we're doing a lot of residential homes. We're not doing big commercials. So it could work, but I intentionally wanted equipment that all the batteries are all interchangeable.
Yeah.
No, the equipment itself is really not that expensive. It's the batteries.
Yeah.
So.
How long does a battery last? Like on the mower?
Typically, so the mowers, you can put 2 of them in there. All the handhelds are 1. I think we're getting not quite an hour of runtime, like of consistent. It's probably about 45 minutes of consistent runtime.
What's the average square foot of your lawns? Are they smaller?
I've been somewhere around the 6,000 turf.
So you can get through a whole lawn.
We should, we should get through. If we started that lawn fresh in the day, 1 battery in the mower, 1 battery in all the equipment, we should be able to do the whole lawn. And then, especially on the handhelds, we should be able to do the next lawn without having to change. The mowers are what eat the most, as you would assume.
Yeah. And then with the 30-inch, is that going to be like 3 batteries?
I think they have 4. I haven't actually seen, but yeah, it's like they got like 4 of them there. But again, it doesn't pull from all of them at the same time. It just pulls from, because they're assuming you're doing a bigger lawn.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you have the rechargeables, which I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have to unload big equipment, and it's also like $25,000, stand-on mowers and stuff. But they're good. I've tested them; they are very, very good. If that's what you do all day, and they'll have like an 8-hour runtime. But yeah, I'm interested. I will say that the 30-inch we're looking at it's definitely a little more bulky. They've definitely beefed it up. I wonder what that's going to do to weight, because our guys have realized like a 21-inch push mower. I mean, they weigh like 60 pounds. I mean, they're like nothing. One guy can pick that thing up. And it makes it nice where I can go back on doing things differently. Right? Is when all these other guys are trying to put these big mowers on properties, especially these smaller lawns that we specialize in, and it gets a little bit of rain, it's a little soft or whatever, we can still mow. They can't. And so it's intentional, right? And so I tell the guys, it's like, I didn't just choose this because they look good. Like there's reasoning behind why we do what we do. And so that was a big deal.
That's cool. And then when we were there, also, you had put the ramps in the back of the van for that reason too, right?
And those are the best. That's the best $2,200 ramp that I've, or just $2,200 in general that I've ever spent.
They're awesome.
I've had 0 issues, and those are being used 20 times a day. Really, the last 2.5 years. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, we have the same thing in the back of our vans. Was it Handy Ramp? I think that's where we ordered them from. I don't remember where. I think that's the company.
It was Handy Ramp.
Yeah, so I thought it's been a minute since I've ordered them, but super nice. Get equipment in and out.
Yeah,
it's easier for the guys.
Aluminum, easy.
Yep. They fold up super fast, and just one band locks them in. Yeah, it's all that wear and tear on the guys. Like trying to lift it up in the back of the truck or using boards or the heck they do. Like you've seen it all, And then you're not running the trailer.
It's clean, and that was the biggest thing, right? And it kind of goes back to it. I think in our area, I was, everybody's running the trailers and trucks and trailers, whatever. But I went to box trucks because I wanted to get away from the trailer more for the fact if you're going to do small lawns, you're always blocking somebody's lawn or somebody's driveway. And so I had truck and trailer, right? And I was the same guy like everybody else, like, it's got the biggest, coolest, baddest mower. And then I realized, like, when I got out of the field, like, all right, we got to start making money, right? And so started looking at these things, and we're still using bigger mowers, but we went to a box truck with dovetails. Were great. They're just a little more expensive. Then I was like, man, I've always thought, the ProMasters or little Sprinter vans was the way to go. And we did that. And it's funny watching. It's like we would do this in our area. We would like transition, and we started seeing companies do the same thing. And I don't know if it's because of us or not. I don't want to say that, but then we do the ProMasters, stuff like that. And the same thing, we'd see people kind of follow in suit, and it's just, we're doing it for different reasons than, maybe what everybody else is doing it. But it's just the fact that, I mean, for us, fuel efficiency, ease of access, driving, whatever, or they got backup cameras. good AC, and it's a big billboard, it's been a game changer. And I got to say something about being a business owner and seeing your driving around and seeing your vans just roll out or trucks and they're all branded and you're like, that's me, that's me.
Yeah.
There's pride behind that stuff.
I agree.
I always said one day I'm going to spend it when I really feel like I've made it, which is probably, I feel like I've never got there, which hopefully that's a good thing. But, I want to put our logo on the top of the vans on every single one of them. We have like 60 or 70, and I'm gonna get I'm getting my pilot's license, either whether it's me in a plane or a helicopter or something. I'm gonna go take a picture, high def, and be able to, and then blow it up right behind my desk and see, literally play I Spy. Like, oh, can you spot all the vans and just count 60? You can see from the sky.
Sweet.
Sounds so, just something weird I've always thought about doing. Just seeing that many and just something to waste money on.
Yeah. So that's your maintenance setup. What does your FERT trucks look like? What do your hardscape trucks look like?
So our FERT and weed control, we don't do a ton yet. We're definitely pushing, and we're getting a lot more. Like our biggest goal this year was just increasing average client values. And we just want more services with one client. And so our FERT setup we actually use one of the mowing vans that we have. We've been talking about actually using essentially like a pallet, skid, whatever.
Yep.
And we run pretty much all granular. We don't do spray. Someday we'll get into that, but right now keep it real simple.
Cool.
It's all granular applications. We spot spray every time we go out, but it's really, it's probably not the best setup, but it's one that I can easily unload a pallet with what they need on it. And they've got their, spray tanks, everything else. Pull it off, set it off somewhere else, and that van keeps rolling, doing mowing services. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 van. At some point, we'll have a dedicated van, but right now we don't have that.
Cool. And then your landscape side.
The landscape trucks. So we run pretty much. I got I think we're 4 right now. 4 Ram 2500s. Wrapped 4-door crew cabs. So those things are getting stupid expensive, which we can all agree. But everything, just same one 5 years ago, it was like $47,000 piece or whatever. This last one we did like 3 months ago was 71, I think it was.
Unreal.
Just crazy. But what are you gonna do? You got to make money. And so then we run them all. We've got three dump trailers. Well, essentially they're 2 roll-off. So the roll-off dumpsters. Intentionally, when I bought those was ideally it's like, so it's kind of a I forget what they call it, like flip. They call it like slip seating in like 18-wheeler like trucking industry, whatever. Something like that. Anyways, we're essentially like we have multiple bins can go onto one trailer, and this bin can be preloaded, and then it just be, guys pull it loaded the day before, guy pulls in, drops his other trailer, picks this one up, and he goes to the next job, right? Didn't really work out the way I thought, but it still is nice, being able to drop the trailer. But the guys like it because it actually sits higher, so they'll raise the trailer. And, we've got our dump buggy that we use for like moving rock and mulch and everything else, mini skids, got a couple of case, track skid steers, but essentially they like them because the wheelbarrow fits right up under it, and they don't want to use the dump buggy and stuff because they can tilt that trailer and it's just like pushing. It's super easy for them. They'll move 8 tons of rock in 3 or 4 hours, two or three guys. So
you said that the landscape side is like 50% of the company now?
No, I want to get there. We're about, that's probably 80% of our revenue makeup.
Cool. So you do a lot of
we'll probably do like 1.6, 1.8 this year in just landscape design build.
So like pavers, all that?
I mean, we don't, down in Texas, man, we really don't do a lot of pavers. It's not a big thing. We do a lot more of actual masonry. Like, so there's like 6 limestone quarries within 10 miles of us. And so we do a lot of limestone, like, cut stone, limestone, flagstone, really just a lot of natural stuff. So same concept, right? I mean, concrete, additions, patio extensions, stuff like that. And we're also subbing some more of that stuff out, which has made it nice because we let our guys be better at what they're good at. And, we make pretty good money on the sub side of things. So that's been pretty nice.
Awesome. Cool. So we'll move on to the next topic that you and I kind of want to talk about, because we just got into the landscape side, and I remember you telling me a couple of years ago, like the hardest part was just like, doing the estimate, getting the bidding done, finding the right person, and just a big struggle. But you seems like you found a really good way to systematize all that and speed right through it. So I think a lot of people that do landscaping that are listening would find this super fascinating, how you've like overcome that huge hurdle.
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely not over it yet, but we've made some really, it's something that's been, I mean, to me, it's like probably the biggest game changer I think that I've had in business in general. In my opinion, it's so obviously we've moved over to Aspire,
Yep.
and we're still onboarding and
So you
still
came over from SA,
getting that
right?
stuff going. Mm-hmm. And more for, again, I've got great things to say with SA.
Yeah.
I just for Aspire, it's more design, build, construction. Basically what I say, it fixes the leaking bucket, right? There's not just expenses flying out the door. Everything's tracked.
Yep.
Job costing, tracking, all this stuff. Anyways, so one thing that it was Land One was one. It's a takeoff software, and then there's the Go Ilon, which many of us know.
Yep.
Well, Aspire bought those companies, and then it kind of combined it into one. It's called Property Intel. This software has been out as Property Intel for about 3 or 4 months, I think. And essentially, what it is like so. And I've been wanting to do this forever because essentially, we all know, right? You go out. And it's the same with every landscaper. You go out, you walk the property, spend 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, take all your photos, maybe a video. You might sketch something on a piece of paper or whatever, but then you got to take it back. And I would do that. I would even use the iPad, right? I'd take it and then I'd have to put it in Google Earth, and I would scale it. And then I'd have to essentially measure all those items and figure out takeoff areas. And then I'd have to go put that in an estimating software. And it was just this drawn out process. And then the worst part about it was just the time suck that it is. And then you find that, this client, like maybe we didn't pre-vet the client well enough, or they just aren't serious, or this, that, and the other. And we find that it was just 6 hours of wasted time. And that is like probably the most frustrating thing in the world. And so I was always trying to look for a faster way. And to a point that you can only do it so fast. However, I found Property Intel and I started utilizing it for, it's pretty simple. It's very simple. It's all 2D, so it doesn't do all the 3D stuff. And for what we do, it works great because I really don't need 3D. Where our average ticket item is right now, it's probably around $35,000. But it's pretty straightforward. And so anyways, what the software allows us to do is we've got everything in there, all of our products, materials, and Aspire, they use stuff called like kits, which is like your labor along with the products and, all that stuff. And, your efficiency factors and whatnot. So essentially, as I design in the software, it is actually taking, it's already scaled. I'm using through the program called Nearmap. I guess they have a partnership with them. And so the houses my clients think I'm like, spying on them. They're like, holy shit, like we just moved in 3 months ago. How do you have a picture of our house with, this already here? And I was like, well, it's actually not Google. They think, it's not going to show up. And I was like, oh, well, just wait. And sure enough, it's super accurate, which makes it easy because everything we do is measured, turf, square foot, all that stuff. But by doing so, I've started using it for design, right? So I have all my plants listed in there, and they've got different icons and symbols, and you can attach associated pricing with those. It's got takeoffs. You can add, build a kit, right? Plant, soil, any kind of fertilizer you're going to put down, whatever, all in one. So when you put that in there, it's calculating that for you, which Aspire already does, but we're doing it kind of kill two birds with one stone. And so we can design, let's say a lawn, square foot, the lawn, the beds, the type of materials going in the beds, how much backfill, cubic yards, total like material you need. But the entire time that I'm doing that, it's giving the client, a visual. And you got to learn to make it look good. It's not terribly hard, but as you're doing that, it's literally pricing it for you. So I can go and click the little estimate icon and it just breaks down my total cost. And right now, because we're not fully implemented with Aspire, my numbers aren't syncing with Aspire. So these are all based on averages. But I know that these numbers are going to lead us to a higher number than what we're going to give them. The other day, a couple of weeks ago, I was on a job on the back porch with a guy. We sat there with my laptop. We walked through the property, 45 minutes, sat down, back porch. In 3 hours, I had a quote for $187,000. An hour later, he signed the quote and, we're moving forward. And that was insane, right? I mean, that was a game changer. That was kind of when, I knew it was already good before then, but that was just like, holy shit. And I've told the Property Intel people this, they've had a couple of testimonials for it, just because they didn't even realize that people are using it for like a design. They're just using it for general takeoffs for maintenance and stuff. And it looks good. And then they got a shared link where you can send it to your clients. When you make adjustments, it updates in real time. They just click refresh. But what's cool is once you're implemented with Aspire, all those numbers talk together. So ideally, I'm not having to go out and find somebody or hire somebody that is super industry knowledgeable, that doesn't have, they have to have, it's like a unicorn in our industry, especially design build. A lot of guys will agree. Hard to find somebody that can design, create, sell, and estimate all in the same person. That's a very tough job to do. It's like the unicorn. There's some guys that can do it, but I just am in belief that you don't need that. And so somehow, it's an average game, right? We might be a little off here and there, but Aspire, we're really popular Intel, has allowed us to cut this 2-3 week process into a 2 to 3 hour process, and sometimes a little bit more. But it also eliminates the back and forth, because now the way we set it up, we have our discovery call and we have our consultation, right? So essentially what that means is person calls in, we have a Google form that the office fills out. It's about 15 questions. At the very end of that form, it asks, how patient was the client with you in giving this information, right? Because we want to know who we're dealing with. It asks budget, asks, what they want to do, different ideas. If they're in a certain parameters that we've already chosen, then we'll just bypass, we'll go straight to a consultation, we'll schedule it there, we go out on site. They're not hitting those parameters, we're not sure if they're great. So we do a discovery call, about 45 minutes to an hour. I can literally pull up property intel, design as I'm on the phone with these clients, and give them a quote before I've ever met them in person. And I'll have a design and quote to them essentially before that call or within an hour after that call. I've sold more work that way than I have actually having to go meet that same person after the fact, which was also, it was also typically they're smaller jobs. But then let's say we got a consultation. Consultation is essentially, what you would expect, except that we set it up in the way that we try to let them, hey, look, we don't do 30-minute consultations. Like, you need to set up 2.5 hours for this. But this is after we already know that you're serious about it. And we'll go out, we tell them ahead of time. It's gonna be about 30, 45 minutes. We're gonna walk around, understand your ideas, budgets, goals, this, that, and the other scope. And then we, like to invite you to sit down with us, whether it's at your kitchen table, your back portion. We say that intentionally because we're hoping they say, hey, come inside because it's hotter than hell outside. So that's helped a lot too. And we'll sit there and we'll work up a design. And as I design, it's giving me pricing. And so they're able to see something and they get something while they're excited. And then I tell them the price and they're like, ooh, that's more than I want to spend. Okay, cool. Let's go stand outside real fast and make some changes. Tell me what I can do, make those changes right there. Whereas before, maybe you're back at your office, they just don't call you back. And you wasted all that time. Or like, I would be the one to say that a 7-visit job, whether that's, visit in terms of like from the time of consultation, that's 1, phone call 2, revisit 3, 4 is another phone call, all that. I'd say it takes from 7 to 3 at the most in a big job. Because you make changes right there in real time. They're excited to see it. And I also know, especially as the owner and being busy on other things, that design is done when I leave the property. Right now we're still having to go back and kind of finalize the estimate that they see. But we know that we're both running on the same road. We're not way off on budgets and we're not wasting each other's time. And it's basically to find if we're a good fit. And that's been, it's been amazing to us. Our close rate went from 33% on average, which we're not the cheapest out here. We probably one of the most expensive. Again, I'd say we sell ourselves in service and quality, really just the service and consistency and the experience. But it went from 33% to about 68% in a month. And it's been hovering right around that 63 to 68%, which is, I have to say that has a lot to do with the selling people while they're excited and they're not waiting 8 weeks for something. They're getting it in 8 hours, so that's been like, we're full force, balls at a wall. I'm spending a bunch of money with a consultant helping implement Spire to make sure that functionality will work as it's supposed to, because I don't want my designer to have to worry about estimating. It'll put it in there for her. All she's doing is making sure, okay, like there's a complexity factor. We say, okay, is it down a hill in the backyard? Okay, add a certain percentage, right? Is it this? And that's how we kind of standardize it. And I think once we do that, like, I don't need the $150,000 projects. I want a shitload of those $25,000 to $45,000 projects. That's what we're good at. So, and we'll get the big ones, but yeah, again, I know I went on full spiel there, but that's kind of the gist. It's been a pretty interesting. software and kind of a change of how we do things.
That's really awesome. And then as you change it, right? You said like as you change the design, it'll change the estimate like in real time. You can send them a link and they can see the change orders too.
Yep. As you do it, it'll you just click sync and it'll update.
And I think that
it's wild.
And it links with like some of your suppliers too, right? So if they have changes, right, they'll update the system automatically.
So Aspire itself. So like Property Intel is its own. It's technically it's owned by Aspire. They just talk to Aspire itself, and then they have Site One. I think is one of the vendors that like, let's say their inventory pricing changes, it'll adjust on our end. Just it's the. I think a lot of us make it harder, especially in our industry, like landscapers. We make it harder than it needs to be, and I don't even want to tell my competitors around me about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, dude, people are like, man. I mean, I've had it to the point where we've given somebody a design quote, signed a contract, got HOA approval, finished the job before they get other contractors' price, end quote. And then half the time there's not as near as good of a presentation as ours, and so it's been one of the biggest things that I think, and I just see it, especially for scalability, by standardizing this. I don't need anybody like the person I hired, Lake, and she's been with us about a month now. She sold her first job the other day, so that was
congratulations.
Pretty cool. Yeah, absolutely. And she actually has a interior design background she got from Texas State. And I realized I don't need somebody that has necessarily industry specific experience. Like I can teach that. I just can't teach all of it. You can't really teach creativity, right? But I know that you don't go into interior design if you're not creative, or if you don't have like some kind of imagination, and you can, what looks good and what fits together, right? And so, again, I think she's going to be a rock star. I think she'll do great. It's exciting to see. It's just the struggle we have right now is I'm still doing all the estimates for her because we're not in Aspire yet. Once we're there, hopefully in 2 months, we're all excited. And she loves using the software, and it makes it easy. So when we get the next person, it's going to be, ideal.
That's fire. I like that a lot. How long is the onboarding process with Aspire?
They'll tell you 90 days, but I'm sorry. If you have somebody that's dedicated to it, completely dedicated, I know. So, I'll call him out. I know Chase Coates with them, and he's done, he had a guy that was just superstar, right? He took everything, but he was the one, he was like, everything stops with him kind of thing for this fire. I think I heard it was somewhere like 4 months for them. I don't know. There's obviously things we're still tweaking, but for us, a lot of it was, I kept kind of holding myself back because I didn't want to get into it and then set something up wrong and find out that I went 5 steps forward and realized I have to go all the way back and redo it. So we decided to hire a consultant. That's what they do. They've worked with hundreds of companies with Aspire and everything else. And they help with the not so much inventory, but your closeout months and stuff, all your numbers and stuff. And so it's not cheap, but I'm glad I did because I kind of tell them what I needed to do, and they're able to help get us there. Because I will say I have to give Aspire credit. They do have really smart implementation people, most of them, anyways. Everybody has those bad experiences, but mine was really good. It was such a task and after I had a couple buddies that have used the same consultant, I was like, you know what? I see the writing's on the wall. I got to do this. I can't, if it costs me $50,000 this year, but I can still go continue to sell versus sitting behind a desk and trying to do something I'm not very good at, it pays for itself. Yeah. Right. And so it was the right call. It sucks. Every month paying $4,000 a month, but what are you going to do?
Right.
I'm paying for speed.
For sure. We're around 23, 25 employees. How has it been hiring this year down in Texas?
You have your ups and downs, but I would say that honestly, we don't really have a ton of turnover, right? I think the biggest turnover is that we get the ones that, they last for a couple of days. That's the turnover, right? Once they're here for a month, 2 months, they either fire themselves or like they're here, right? So it hasn't been very hard. I say that I don't do the hiring anymore, but I'm still aware of what goes on. And Natalie does a lot of our hiring and stuff. And she's our employee success, or director of employee success. That's what we call her. And so that's her title. That's her job. She's done a really good job of that. I know she works her ass off. But I think it's like anybody, right? You got to hire, or you got to interview 40, hire 10, and keep one. It's kind of like what we found is what it takes to get there. And, but we have really, really pushed. We've always had pretty decent culture, but I feel like we really made an emphasis on it over the last couple of years. Everything from snow cone trucks to, parties and different things like that. So we try to do cool things like that, and that's helped.
Yeah, that was my next question.
And they're also paid well.
Yeah, that's my next question is, do you guys do it, like, for culture-wise, do you guys do any, like, events with them? Like, any, like, anything you guys do, like, that's cool that just a lot of companies don't do?
I would say that the biggest thing, one, okay, I'm not really so much culture, but we're paying on average intentionally. We pay on average probably 15 to 20% more than any of our competitors around here starting. We're rolling into a lot of pay for performance type models.
Yeah, that's true.
Yet, but I want it across the board, like the entire office. Everybody has an ability to make more. If you sell more, you can do more, whatever.
Yep.
The biggest thing is obviously our onboarding process. When they come in, we have pretty strict process we follow, and leading up to that. So like when we hire somebody, I know that it's just that we want people to feel important. We want people to feel comfortable. So it's not like the first day of school and the first day of lunch trying to figure out who do I sit by. There's that, we call it the handoff, right? They come in, we're sitting in our main office, this office right here, which essentially is a big screen on the other side of it. It's kind of our front entry office, whatever you want to call it. Just have some smaller meetings and stuff in here, and we'll sit here and we'll go through our core values. We'll go through our mission, our value, like what's important to us, what we expect out of them, what their goals, dreams are, financially, personally, professionally. And we try to follow up on that.
Remember the name, remember the dream.
Yeah, exactly. We want to know. And if the name, remember the dream, it's going to lead you. And it's a little side note. One of the coolest things I got to do here recently was play golf with a guy. He didn't even play golf. He just took me out there because he had to, because he was a member and I wasn't. He's probably worth about $2 billion. And I sat there and picked, this dude's 70 years old. I had picked his brain. And he enjoyed it. I'm surprised I was playing pretty decent. So he enjoyed watching it. But it's always that question, like, what do you do that's different? What did you do to get to where you were? He owns businesses. And he said he was surprising me. It was weird because everybody else wants to give you business advice, which what I probably would have done. But he says, he gave me almost like a personal piece. He said, find a good partner, in terms like his wife, right? He said, find a good partner, stands by. I was like, holy shit, okay. Like, it's just interesting hearing that from him. And then two, he says, it's like, obviously we can all probably agree. It's not about what makes you a lot of money. How can you get this person to meet their dreams? How can you get them to make a lot of money, or whatever that dream is for them? But it also in turn works for you, because in the morning, they're not going to sit in their shower, take a shower, get ready to go work. Like, man, I just can't wait to make Chad a bunch of money. But if we can change that mindset of how they can do really well and benefit their future, but it correlates and works with ours, I mean, it's a win-win. And so kind of the whole P for P and that concept, but it really just, the guys know we care. I mean, that's the biggest thing to me. And so I think that the culture side of things, I mean, we did a snow cone truck. We try to do at least one event a month. We had a snow cone truck for like an hour. It was right before 4th of July. It was the Monday before. And surprisingly, everybody really enjoyed that, and I think it just, especially when it's 100 degrees, the morale, all those little things, right? It's just, we do little photo contests every week. So whoever what's the best photo gets used, which also helps our marketing content manager. They get $15 gift cards. Basically, we call it lunch on us. And, we just try to make little events like that, try to build some camaraderie, competition. And, we're getting better too. We're finding cool ideas. I'd like to set up kind of a scoreboard somewhere, but we'll get there.
It's awesome. Yeah. We're on time already. It's already 5 o'clock. Our time.
Time flies, dude.
It's going crazy, but I still have a couple final questions that I want to ask. You mentioned JP, like 90% of the people have mentioned him on this podcast, but what's he meant for your life? Like, how has he impacted you?
Not from it's kind of what I told him, like when our last academy trips. I told him, I said, I remember when I went to GIE and I was looking for software, this and that. I still always believed in the technology, and I got Service Autopilot, right? I remember meeting with Bear. He's the one who sold me Service Autopilot, and I got set up, and I was doing it all this, that, and the other. But that wasn't the big changing factor. I mean, that's what started it, right? If I had to go back to the roots. But because I didn't watch any of his videos, I didn't have a clue what Lawn Care Millionaire was. And I remember, I actually don't remember how I saw it, probably one of the little pop-ups on, Service Autopilot, but it said, the SA4, SA5, whatever. I think it was the SA4 that I went to. It was the last one that was at the Hyatt in Dallas. And I'll never forget, because I can talk with anybody, have a good time, whatever. But I remember telling my wife the first day, I was like, hey, I was on the phone with her. I was like, hey, I got to go down. I got to meet somebody, because I didn't know anybody, and I got to just do it. They had that little app. And I was like, hey, everybody wanted to meet and talk shop at the bar or whatever. And so I remember taking that time. I go downstairs. I finally, that first handshake, and I was off and running. I mean, I went from, I don't think my wife heard from me but like twice the entire weekend. Yeah. And, where else can you sit there and talk about lawn care for, 3 days straight? And so, and that's where I told John, like, I think his genuine, like just a true, genuine need to help people and to really see other people succeed is why I think he is so successful. Yeah. And he's just another guy, right? It's been super cool. Like, we had, we were at his house in Dallas here just, I guess it was a couple months ago, and it's just like you're another, just another dude. And I think that right there, but the genuine ability to want to help people. And then he's created the software, and obviously we relate, and he's built this group. I mean, I would have never met you if it wasn't for that. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. So to me, it's not really one particular thing. I think it's overall just what he's built in terms of a network. And, to me, everybody looks up to him. I mean, I definitely do, just the type of person he is. He doesn't come off as I've got more than you kind of thing, because he definitely could if he wanted to.
Do you think that he actually realized how big of an impact he's had?
I wondered that. I wonder if like him and Tiffany just sit around like talking, like, man, do you realize what we did? I mean, I'm sure they've had some of those moments, but I think he's the same thing. He's the type of person that's like, it's not big enough, right? Because he always talked to us about dreaming bigger, thinking bigger. And, I think that, I think he does, but I think it's in a very, very, very humble way. Yeah. And but I still don't think it's enough for him. I think he's like, he just wants, I would assume he's all for doing more. I mean, I think it was just as much of an enjoyment for him to hang out with us at his house than it was for us, yep. So that.
And talk about a competitive dude. Like, I've played so many, like I've spent hours and hours and hours playing sports against this guy, from basketball to hockey to soccer to like tennis.
Remember we played broom ball?
Yeah. You name it, we've played it. And it's, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but it's him and I, like, going at it all the time. That he will do whatever it takes to win, and I love it.
It was like, that's the best. And I think
he got hurt when we were playing basketball. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're playing Lightning, and he just not going to lose. And I beat him like 5 times in a row, and I suck at basketball. I just quick. Yeah. And he finally got hurt. He's like, I'm done. He won 1 game, and then he was done. But he's just ultra competitive. I love that about him.
Yeah. I think that's a lot. We have a lot of that in common. Everybody here, like, you kind of have to be, right, to be a business. Like, you gotta want to. Even if it's competing against yourself. Granted, I'm super competitive.
Yeah, I know they say
that, like I said, that meant a lot.
It's a lot of people like compare themselves to other people, and it's so hard not to, right? But it's like, don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to where you were a year ago.
They call it better your best.
Exactly.
It's been an important thing we always talk about, so I think the other thing too that I've learned is, and I'm not the greatest at, is like the consistency, but I've always used this saying in my office is, consistency creates confidence creates trust, and people buy from people they trust. Yeah. And that's been probably one of the things that I'm not very consistent. I'm not a routine person. I get the job done. It's probably what's got me to this point, but I hire everybody else around me that is super consistent, right?
Yeah, I'm a creature of habit. Like, if I'm going to be at certain times of the day, just like clockwork.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm like, hey, you want to go to a couple? All right, let's go. It's just playing golf today. Sorry, office. We'll see you later.
Right on.
So,
what's the best?
Calendars help with that.
One of the first thing Jonathan ever told me was to think bigger. So you're not wrong there. But what is You give me a lot of advice already from people. What do you think the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Whether it's personal or business.
I think to me, the one that I can think of off the top of my head is stick with it. A lot of people talk about the ideas and the dreams, and like, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. Like, I want to be big, this, that, and the other. And like, even in business, we all want to be a big business, right? I tell people that my goal behind CLC is I want to be the guy that when we pull up at a gas station, they're tapping you on, people are pulling up, tapping you on the shoulder. Dude, how did you get hired on there? What did you do? Like, what do I have to do to get on there? And that's creating this culture that people like, they're the best. We want to be a part of that. But to me, in my mind, is like so many people have these ideas, but they don't really run with them. I mean, I'm guilty of it too on times, but I think the one thing I did right with CLC is like, even when the times get hard, you're not jumping around. You're not like, oh, I got to go be this business because this guy's making a bunch of money. I got to go be this. You're like doing it for different reasons, and you stick with it. And you just learn from everybody, right? If you're not learning, you're backing up.
Yep, I agree.
If you're backing up, you're losing. So.
Yeah, and I was one of those guys who like shiny objects, so I tried a little bit of everything, and then I got to an age.
I got the Raptor Jason Cups events though.
Right, and it's like, okay, I know what I'm good, what I'm not good at, and we're just gonna stick to what we're good at. And I get asked, it feels like on a daily or weekly basis to go do something new. Let's go do this. Let's go do this. Hey, want to come join me do this? Let's start this together. I'm like, it all sounds great, and I'd love to, but right now I'm just on a mission to do what I'm doing. And then when you get ultra focused on those few things, like it's almost like the law of attraction. Like you're looking for these bigger things. You know what your goals are, and like all of a sudden these people just start showing up to you. Like it's the weirdest thing ever. Like
it naturally puts you in a position.
Yeah, people just show up and like the right things start happening. It's just the craziest thing ever.
It's because of all the videos I've been making for you.
Yes, it's because of Dalton's videos.
FisherMultimedia.com.
It's a shameless plug over there. Last question, and if you listen to the podcast a lot, you'll know what's coming. Last question is, it almost makes you put a perspective on the last however long. What are you most proud of? I love the big sigh. Every time I ask, it's the big sigh. It's like, oh man, call me out now. But it gets emotional, like it just does. We have so much pride and so much passion to this thing.
Well, I think a lot of us too. We don't like. It's crazy. I feel like I just had an interview with a mowing manager this morning, and I told him, I was like, I feel guilty that I'm guilty of not stopping and smelling the roses, right? Not like, because to me, it's like one thing is never good enough. And Natalie said something, I can't remember what she said about, like, you don't have to be, you can be happy, but not content. And that was interesting because I never really thought about it, right? It's like, because I'm happy, but I'm not content. Like I want to I see this 10 years from now, and I'll probably 10 years from now, I'll see it again, another 10 years. Right. So I think that, to me, the I'm most proud of, I guess, is probably the fact that that I've gotten to this point now. I think to me, as a team that we've been able to build and the networks that we've built, like the fact that we've got people that I think truly want to be here. And it feels awesome. It feels good. Like you have people that actually, they're not just showing up for that paycheck. Like they really want to see the company succeed. And that could be for their own benefit as well. But that's what it's here for, right? And I think I'm just proud to see, when I really stop to look back and see like what we've done. Like we've been through a lot of shit. There's a guy's been a lot more than I have, but just everything from like realizing, like, I found out at Jason Cups Roundtable that I was selling at a 3% loss before I ever started the job. Didn't know it, to go from there and went through sales tax audit, just all kinds of little stupid stuff that we learned from, but to be able to like, still we're here, right? We've grown, we've gotten here. We've still got so much more to learn, but I'd have to say that's probably, for that, obviously, I'd say I'm proud to be a dad. Like that's one thing I'm so excited to always go home. But that's, as I think most dads should be. But
cool. And then last one. What does the next 5 to 10 years look like for you? What's your vision?
The next 5 to 10 years for me is, I think one of the things. Jonas, you were in Costa Rica with it, weren't you?
No, I didn't go.
Did you go to Costa Rica? Nope. No, okay. It's probably smart because I got stuck. I
remember that.
That was ridiculous. Anyways, I remember I asked everybody, man, what's the biggest thing? What's the biggest thing? And I know Jonathan, Steve Scarcell, a couple of different guys that all said people. And I knew the answer, but I didn't know what that meant, right? And I think we've really started to kind of hone in on what that means to hire the right person. Like we had an interview today that was amazing. Like I'm like, dude, we're finding some good people. And I think now that we have that, it's just doubling down on that. And the 5 to 10 years are, I mean, in terms of a metric, 5 years, we hope to, hit about, we're hoping to push 10 million and over 1,500 active service clients. 10 years, we've got our big game plan, but I want to be, we want to be the pretty much 10% footprint in our area and have a company, like I said earlier, that when we pull up, people know exactly who we are and people line up at the door to work for us, so yep. Hiring the right people is one and knowing our numbers is number two, just consistency. That's the thing that I will tell you that I suck at. And like I mentioned, but I have been working on so much more. And I think consistency. I heard a saying that leave you with that. But I heard a saying that that success is not. I don't necessarily believe in the numbers, but success is only 10% brains and 90% consistency. I think it's probably more 25% brains, 75% consistency. But consistency is so important.
Showing up every day, right?
Yeah, it's doing the small things, all the little small, good, successful things that get you to that one big or multiple big end goals. So,
you said the people a couple times in there. How many times have you heard to hire faster?
Oh yeah, dude, the saying hire fast, fire faster.
But like my squirrel brain, I always thought like, oh yeah, hire more technicians, hire more office stuff. But it's not those people that they're telling you to hire fast. It's the C-suite executives.
It's do the process.
Yes. It's
Go
those
through the bad ones.
Yep.
Find the good ones, and when you find the good ones, then you gotta get them on fast.
For sure.
But yeah, absolutely, I hear it all the time.
Cool, man. Well, like I said, we're out of time. But again, I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. I told you it was gonna go super fast. Feels like we just started talking. We could go on for hours at a time.
I'd go forever. Yeah, you have to get your video guys start clipping stuff up.
For sure, but we said we're gonna talk about 2-3 important things, and if we got through those 3 things, it'd be good, and we did that.
We definitely did, man.
Good
and
work,
I'm glad. I got to admit, I've listened to like half of one of the podcasts. I don't know why I haven't listened to it, but I'm 100% listening to them because I know a lot of guys that are on it. So
yeah, there's a lot of good guys doing a lot of really interesting stuff, and I still learn every time. I take notes every single time. So this is more about not just you or myself, but everyone, just to learn. So everyone always asks why I do 100%. This, and I would say because I want to up-level our entire industry. I have competitors in my own market that listen to my podcast, and they might not like 100%. Me, but guess what? They respect the shit out of me.
Yeah, they're watching you. That means they trust you.
Right.
Yeah,
so
and that's
it. Just says that.
I think. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's it's important. I think you're doing some cool stuff here. I got to say one thing I think would be really cool. I thought about the other day. Whether you make a whole podcast about it, but I always think it'd be cool because no business owners share the bad times. And I think it'd be really interesting to have a podcast that people talk about what's that one really rough experience that you had in your business, because everybody that's not a business owner, like, oh, let's go into business. And they look back and they're like, man, y'all don't see the struggles, the give up, the things you have to do to get here. And I don't know, I had a thought about it the other day. I was like, man, I think that'd be a cool topic.
That'd be a good roundtable.
I was just going to say that. So we've done a couple roundtable events with more than one person on here. We could line up like 4 or 5 people and just talk about all the bad stuff on like 1-2 hour podcast. You down?
I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be interesting as shit. Oh, absolutely.
All right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hardest part of it will be getting us all to be on the same page at the same time.
I think the hardest part would be getting all that in 2 hours.
Yeah, cool. Let's do it. Let's line it up.
Yeah.
Good idea.
That'd be cool, man. Absolutely, dude. Well, man, I hope to see you soon.
Yeah,
again,
sure.
I really enjoyed being on here. Thank you so much. And, keep kicking ass, dude. You're doing good. You're doing something right. So
cool.
Everybody's watching you.
Appreciate it, buddy. Take care.
You.
See you.
Absolutely, man. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the Pest Control Millionaire Podcast. If this was valuable to you, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a big difference for our growth. And if you do need any help growing your business, go ahead and check out pestcontrolmillionaire.com. We have lots of courses up there, from sales to operations. I have some courses there about producing short form content. Plus, we have a mentorship program where you can get one-on-one business coaching from the Pest Control Millionaire himself. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.